Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, my original channel. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. If you want to donate something to the channel, that information is below in the description box in way of my PayPal and Cash App. And now I have enabled the Super Thanks feature on this channel, which is pretty new. So if you're listening to this on the playback and you want to give a thank you in that way, if you see value or if you found value in this offering, then you're welcome to do so. Also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. I just sent the first one out yesterday, so I want to thank everyone who signed up. But if you are new and you want to sign up after hearing this, then the link is below in the description box. I am a writer in addition to a YouTube content creator. So you know what? I think that'll be my jumping off point for this. I think I've rebranded to some degree so that this channel, well, I want this channel to become more of a thought center, and yeah, a bit of a thought center. So a lot of thought pieces, more interviews with interesting people, writing, and relating the content to writings. So that's more of what you'll see here, and this channel has gone through a bit of an evolution since I started it back in 2019. Not everyone might like the new direction, but I think, for me, I think that's the way to go. In any case, so sometimes you'll hear thoughts of the day, current events, personal stories. All that was talked about in my trailer, and I've said often on this channel that a good writer doesn't always tell you directly what they're talking about. They lay out their story and they lay out their themes, and then it's left for you, the reader, or in this instance, the listener, to kind of piece together what's happening, and what the genesis of that topic is. So this video is going to be called, or it'll be some iteration of thoughts on STEM careers, nuclear physics, and culture. So as most of you know, or if you don't know, I have a science and technology YouTube channel. I'm always looking for more subs. And I'm trying to be regular over there. That might be my most important channel of all the Big Discussions 76 channels. One of the reasons I started that channel was to make myself more visible as a STEM professional. I don't think that there are enough, there's not enough imaging or spotlight for individuals like myself. And I'm not saying that from a place of vanity or self-indulgence, but I'm just thinking about the younger people coming up after me. There are very few STEM professionals, black male STEM professionals, for example, that are visible. And I've been very outspoken about the fact that here in the DMV, when I would go do career days, and even when I would bump into other professionals here in Washington, D.C., and this is a white collar town or city. It's a white collar city. It's much bigger than a town. Quite a few people have told me that I was the first scientist that they've ever met. And when I say people, I'm talking about people from my background, the African American community or the black community, whatever you want to call it. But I was the first scientist that they ever met. So, and I think that's a very, very telling thing in terms of exposure. One of the uploads, or one of the lives I did over on Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology, involved an essay I wrote called The Story of How I Earned my STEM degree, and it talked about my educational path at the University of Michigan and everything I had to learn along the way to earning my PhD, the good, the bad, the ugly. And there were quite a few lessons there. And I was fortunate that my graduate advisor did not give up on me during that process. But one of the things I alluded to in that essay, and at some point maybe I'll write another one, I just don't have a lot of time these days, or maybe I'll make a video on it. But one of the things I alluded to was that the science world is a different world, and it's a culture all in its own. And even just majoring in it as an undergraduate at Johnson C. Smith University, I didn't understand that. And even after doing 2 summers of research at UNC Charlotte, I kind of started to understand it, but I didn't understand it until I was immersed in it. And that's, had I had STEM professionals in my home ecosystem growing up, I might have known that. But because there's just very, very little imaging of Black scientists and these individuals in pop culture and in the mainstream media, there are a lot of people who are oblivious to this. One of the indicators that I got at my undergraduate institution, my HBCU, Johnson C. Smith University, was one of the professors. I think she got on us for not reading about science. And then my graduate advisor at the University of Michigan, he got on me about that as well. Not keeping up on the latest developments and innovations in the field. That's a part of the culture of science. And then when you go do the research, when you join a lab, that lab is a mini company, and it's a mini family where people form relationships, where people can form relationships that last for years and years and years. That's a culture. It's a mindset. It's a way of doing things. It's going to work on the weekends. It's thinking about your projects after hours and not thinking about anything else. It's coming up with ideas. It's working on multiple projects at one time. There's a culture to science. And if you're not exposed to it, you don't know. So, and so it's well known that African Americans are underrepresented in the sciences. And I don't know, other than to try to be visible and to, affect government policy and money allocated towards that. I don't know how you reverse that trend. But because there's little exposure and people don't know about it, there's a quagmire for the individuals who launch off into those fields. And I think this might be, this is, I didn't realize this, but this is kind of related to that last stream I did on social class, which was based upon an article someone sent to me. I just read it. But similar to that, similar to ascending in social class, when you enter a science career, depending upon how deep you go into that career, you enter a different world. Depending upon which field you get into, there's a specific vocabulary, and you comport yourself a certain way. If you immerse yourself in it, again, you start thinking about your research most of the time, and you may become oblivious to what's happening in the outside world in terms of entertainment, media, the latest trends. And in that regard, you might become unrelatable to some people because you're going to speak a different language. You're in a different culture. So relatability becomes an issue. So let's take something like a nuclear physicist. I'm a pharmacologist / toxicologist, but lately I've been thinking about something like nuclear physics. What kinds of things does a nuclear physicist think about? What kinds of things does a nuclear physicist have to have a handle on to work in that field? what is a nuclear physicist the master of? Well, this is just a quick description from doing a Google search. Particle and nuclear physicists study the properties of atomic and subatomic particles, such as quarks, electrons, and nuclei, and the forces that cause their interactions. A PhD in physics, astronomy, or a related field is needed for jobs in research or academia, or for independent research positions in industry. So that's a nuclear physicist. So as a pharmacologist, I'm in awe of the physics community and the astronomy community and the aerospace community. Those are all very, very bright people, but I know enough to know what goes into what they do and what they think about and the calculations that they make. But what about someone who doesn't have a science background and who has no knowledge of these fields or these worlds? So I'm saying that to say that when you launch off into science careers, and if no one explains it to you, and hopefully if you're listening to this and you know a young person who's launching off into a science field, there's a consideration about being relatable and being knowledgeable beyond your field of expertise, particularly when it's time to go back and be around your own people. I think I'll just say that if you come from a community of people who are not knowledgeable in the sciences, it may become necessary to be able to relate back on those levels. Yeah, so relating on those levels and also building yourself out in other areas beyond your training. So that those are important, because again, when you start your education, depending upon which field you get into, you're launching off into a different world, and in some instances, you're leaving some people behind. So relating and being able to mingle, being able to mix socially, that's important as well. And individuals who have not gone into the sciences, they may not know. I know that for in my particular family circle, I remember my mother and my father coming to my thesis defense. I know that they knew that I was getting a PhD, and it was my thesis defense. But when I stood at the front of that room and I was going on and on and on about metabolism-based inactivation and drug metabolism and ubiquitination and proteasomal degradation, I know that I was speaking a different language. Here for my 9 to 5, I just got off of let me just say that we've recently had a number of trainings on things like new approach methodologies and read across methodologies and in silico methods. So for the layperson, for the non-scientist, that's another language. That's gibberish. So that's what I wanted to say in this offering. Not everyone knows what a pharmacologist does. Not everybody knows what a nuclear physicist does. And in a community like ours, which for the most part is last in these fields, there's not an appreciation for who those people are and what they do. Over on my science and technology channel, I did a stream for Black History Month highlighting the Black astronauts. I'll probably leave that below in the description box. And I suspect a lot of our people don't know who they are. And most of those people, most of those Black astronauts were either physicians, they were military service men and women, and or they were researchers of some sort. Speaking of which, before I end this, because I was a writer, because I am a writer, and because I am in the STEM fields, and I've covered STEM events, I learned a couple of years ago that the Navy is the most STEM-intensive military branch. So it makes sense that the Navy would be highly enriched in nuclear physicists and nuclear engineers and those kinds of things. They have nuclear submarines and all kinds of reactors, but I just wanted to throw that in there. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people look at the Navy and they think folks are just going out to sea, or they think about Top Gun and aircraft carriers and frigates and those kinds of things. But the Navy is actually the most STEM intensive branch of the military, maybe now with the exception of the Space Force. So, but there's also a lot of physics in aerospace as well, so the Air Force. In any case, this has gone on for too long, so I'm going to stop. Let me know what you think about this. Science careers, thoughts on STEM careers, nuclear physics, nuclear physicists, and culture. So before I end this, I want to be clear here. When I say being able to relate, I mean relating socially and in social settings, and just thinking about the fact that you'll need more than your science training to relate and navigate social settings. Now, one other thing, I think there's a delicate dance here, and I think that for those STEM professionals, those young people who are going to be out in the world after getting their training, you also have to appreciate yourself, and you also have to know yourself and not undervalue yourself or think that you're strange because you're thinking about splitting atoms and protons and neutrons, and the fact that you're thinking about ubiquitination and proteasomal degradation. But just know that there are certain people who spend most of their time thinking about the latest dances and the latest songs and restaurants and those kinds of things. And that's where their mind and that's where their consciousness resides. So, while you don't want to undervalue yourself and you don't want to feel like you're an alien yourself, and you're not an alien because you think about those things, just know that certain people, their minds and their consciousnesses reside on other frequencies. And once again, once you attain certain educations or certain knowledge sets, there's a thing where you may be leaving certain people behind, and you may speak different languages, and you may be thinking about things that they have no idea or never even fathom of. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you think anything, please like, share, and subscribe. Once again, if you want to donate to the channel, that information is below in the description box. And if you want to leave a super thanks, you can do that. Also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC newsletter. And as always, remember, everyone, that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care wherever you are, whether you are watching this during the daytime or at night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.